Jake Morrison floated near the observation window of the research station, watching the blue and silver planet spin slowly below. Kethra Prime looked peaceful from space, with its crystal cities gleaming like jewels across the surface. He had been studying the Ketherian people for 6 months now, and they still amazed him with their grace and intelligence. The Ketherians were unlike any species humans had ever met. They stood 7 feet tall with thin, elegant bodies. Their skin was translucent blue, and you could see the soft glow of their blood vessels underneath. But their most striking feature was their large eyes that changed color based on their emotions. Happy Ketherians had golden eyes, while sad ones showed deep purple. Jake worked as a xenobiologist and diplomat. His job was to learn about alien biology and help humans understand other species. The Ketherians seemed perfect for friendship with humanity. They were peaceful, advanced, and eager to share knowledge. Their leader, Elder Vex, had been nothing but kind and helpful during all their meetings. Captain Lisa Ford ran the research station with military precision. She believed in following rules and keeping everything organized. Dr. Nathan Brooks was the chief medical officer, always curious about how alien biology worked. Commander Alex Turner handled security and never trusted anyone completely. Maya Chen worked in communications, speaking several alien languages with amazing skill. Today was supposed to be another routine cultural exchange meeting. Jake gathered his notes and headed to the main conference room. The Ketherians would arrive soon in their sleek silver ships. These meetings happened twice a week, where both species shared information about art, science, and culture. The conference room had a large round table with translation devices at every seat. The walls showed beautiful images of both Earth and Kethra Prime. Jake took his usual seat and waited for the others to arrive. Captain Ford entered first, followed by Dr. Brooks and Commander Turner. Maya Chen was already at her station, checking the translation equipment. Within minutes, the Ketherian delegation materialized in beams of silver light. Their teleportation technology still impressed Jake every time he saw it. Elder Vex appeared first, his eyes a calm blue color that meant he was at peace. Behind him came 4 other adult Ketherians, all dressed in flowing robes that seemed to shimmer with their own light. But today there was someone new with them. A young Ketherian female stood at the back of the group. She was smaller than the others, probably equivalent to a human teenager. Her skin was paler than the adults, and her eyes kept changing colors, rapidly. Jake had never seen a young Ketherian before. Elder Vex had always said that their youth stayed home to study. The meeting began normally. Elder Vex spoke about their recent discoveries in crystal technology. Dr. Brooks shared information about human medical advances. Everything seemed routine until Jake noticed the young Ketherian girl staring at him intensely. Her eyes had turned a deep red color, which Jake had never seen before. In all his months of study, Ketherian eyes had never shown red. The girl seemed nervous, shifting from foot to foot. The adult Ketherians appeared not to notice her strange behavior. Halfway through the meeting, something unexpected happened. The young Ketherian suddenly broke away from her group and rushed toward Jake. Her movement was so quick that the security systems didn't have time to react. "Please," she said in broken English, grabbing Jake's arm with surprising strength. "You must come, you must help us." The room went silent. Elder Vex and the other Ketherians looked shocked and horrified. Commander Turner reached for his weapon, but Captain Ford held up her hand to stop him. The girl's eyes were now flashing between red and purple, colors that shouldn't exist in Ketherian biology, according to everything Jake had learned. She was speaking rapidly in her own language, but the translation devices couldn't keep up with her rushed words. "Zara!" Elder Vex commanded sharply. "Step away from the human immediately." But the girl, Zara, ignored him. She continued speaking to Jake, mixing English words with her native language. "Home. Dying. Only you. Save us," she managed to say, before 2 adult Ketherians grabbed her arms. As they pulled her away from Jake, Zara did something that made his blood run cold. She quickly pressed her finger against his palm and traced a symbol. It was a human symbol, one used in xenobiology to mark dangerous biological contamination. How could she possibly know that sign? We apologize deeply for this interruption, Elder Vex said, his eyes now showing the orange color of embarrassment. Young Zara suffers from mind sickness. Her thoughts are not clear. She speaks nonsense and does not understand proper behavior. The other Catherians nodded in agreement, but Jake noticed something odd. They seemed more frightened than embarrassed. Their eyes showed flashes of yellow, which usually meant fear or anxiety. Perhaps we should end today's meeting early, Captain, Ford suggested diplomatically. We understand that illness can be difficult for any family. Elder Vex agreed quickly, almost too quickly. Yes, that would be wise. We will return when young Zara is properly treated for her condition. As the Catherians prepared to teleport away, Zara looked back at Jake one more time. Her eyes were now a deep, sad purple. But just before she disappeared in the silver light, Jake's communication device beeped softly. Someone had sent him a data packet. After the Catherians left, the human team sat in confused silence. Commander Turner was the first to speak. That was strange behavior, even for an alien species, he said. The girl seemed genuinely distressed about something. Mental illness probably affects all intelligent species, Dr. Brooks added. We shouldn't read too much into it. But Jake couldn't stop thinking about the symbol Zara had traced on his palm. It was too specific, too accurate to be a coincidence. He excused himself from the debriefing and returned to his quarters. Once alone, Jake checked his communication device. The data packet contained a set of coordinates on Kythera Prime's surface, along with a simple message in broken English. Please, come. They lie. We need human help. Jake spent the next several hours reviewing everything he knew about Catherian society. According to all their official information, the Catherians lived in harmony on their planet's surface. They had no crime, no conflict, and no serious diseases. Their technology was advanced, and their culture was peaceful. But Zara's desperate behavior suggested something very different. Jake decided to examine the translation logs from the meeting. Most of Zara's rapid speech had been marked as untranslatable by the computer systems. After running the audio through deeper analysis programs, Jake made a disturbing discovery. Zara hadn't been speaking nonsense at all. She had been using an archaic form of Catherian language, one that was much older than the modern version they usually heard. When properly translated, her words were terrifying. They are dying in the deep places. The surface people lie to you. Only human medicine can save us. Please come before we all fade away. Jake stared at the translation in shock. If Zara was telling the truth, then everything the humans believed about Catherian society was wrong. But why would Elder Vex and the others lie? What were they hiding? The coordinates Zara had sent led to an area of the planet that was marked as uninhabited wilderness on all Catherian maps. But satellite scans showed no signs of life there. If Catherians were really dying somewhere on the planet, wouldn't their advanced scanners detect them? Jake realized he faced a difficult choice. He could report Zara's message to Captain Ford and follow proper diplomatic procedures, or he could investigate on his own and risk violating several regulations about unauthorized contact with alien populations. As he looked out at the beautiful planet below, Jake thought about Zara's desperate red eyes and the ancient warning symbol she had traced on his palm. Something was very wrong on Kythera Prime, and a young alien girl was begging him to help save her people. Jake couldn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Zara's desperate face and her rapidly changing eye colors. The coordinates she had sent him burned in his mind like a puzzle he had to solve. By morning, he had made his decision. Found Dr. Brooks in the medical bay, running routine scans on plant samples from Kythera Prime. Nathan Brooks was a good man, curious about everything and always willing to help others. If anyone would understand Jake's concerns, it would be him. Nathan, I need to talk to you about something important, Jake said, closing the medical bay door behind him. Dr. Brooks looked up from his microscope. You look terrible, Jake. Didn't you sleep? Not much. Listen, I think something is seriously wrong with what we've been told about the Cytherians. Jake sat down across from his friend and explained everything that had happened the day before. He showed him the translated message and the coordinates. Dr. Brooks listened carefully, his expression growing more concerned with each detail. That's a serious accusation, Jake. Are you saying Elder Vex and his people have been lying to us? I don't know what I'm saying yet. But that girl, Zara, she knew a human biological warning symbol. How is that possible unless she's been studying our science? And why would she need to know about biological contamination? It could be a coincidence, Nathan suggested, but his voice lacked conviction. An archaic, Cytherian language talking about people dying in deep places. That's not a coincidence. Jake pulled up the satellite images of the coordinates on his tablet. Look at this area. It's supposed to be empty wilderness, but something about these rock formations looks artificial. Dr. Brooks studied the images carefully. As a medical officer, he was trained to notice patterns and anomalies. These could be cave systems, he admitted, and if they're natural caves, they might not show up clearly on surface scans. Exactly. Nathan, what if there are Cytherians living underground? What if they're sick or dying and the surface government doesn't want us to know about it? The two men sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, Dr. Brooks spoke. If you're right, then we have a moral obligation to help. But Captain Ford will never authorize an unauthorized surface mission based on one strange encounter. I know. That's why I'm asking you to help me go without authorization. Nathan's eyes widened. Jake, that could end both our careers. We'd be violating direct orders and risking an international incident. But if we're right, we could save lives. Isn't that worth the risk? Dr. Brooks struggled with the decision. He was a man of science and medicine, dedicated to helping others. But he was also a military officer who followed orders. After a long pause, he made his choice. What do you need me to do? 2 hours later, Jake and Nathan were preparing one of the research shuttles for what they hoped would look like a routine geological survey mission. They filed flight plans that would take them near Zara's coordinates, but not directly to them. Once they were on the planet's surface, they could alter their course. The shuttle trip to Kythera Prime's surface took 30 minutes. As they descended through the atmosphere, Jake felt his heart racing. They were about to discover either that he was completely wrong, or that humanity's first alien allies had been deceiving them from the beginning. The landscape below was beautiful, but alien. Crystal formations jutted up from purple grass plains. Silver trees with metallic leaves swayed in the wind. Everything glowed with a soft, natural light that made the whole planet seem magical. They landed the shuttle in a clearing about 2 miles from Zara's coordinates. According to their instruments, the area was completely lifeless. No plants, no animals, no Cytherians. But Jake remembered that their sensors might not detect underground life forms very well. The walk to the coordinates took them through increasingly rocky terrain. The crystal formations became larger and more complex. Jake noticed that some of them seemed too regular to be natural, almost like they had been carved or shaped by intelligent hands. Jake, look at this, Nathan called out, kneeling beside what looked like a natural rock formation. These scratches in the stone, they're not from weather erosion. Something made these marks deliberately. The marks formed a pattern that looked almost like writing, but in no language either man recognized. As they continued walking, they found more marked stones. Someone had definitely been in this area despite what the sensors indicated. The coordinates led them to a cliff face covered in what appeared to be natural rock. But as they got closer, Jake noticed something odd about the shadows. There seemed to be an opening in the rock, hidden by clever camouflage. Nathan, I think there's a cave entrance here, Jake said, running his hands along the rock face. Sure enough, they found a narrow opening barely wide enough for a human to squeeze through. Cool air flowed out from inside, carrying a strange smell that was both familiar and alien. Should we go in? Nathan asked nervously. Before Jake could answer, they heard a sound from inside the cave. It was a musical note, rising and falling in a pattern that sounded like the Cytherian language. Someone was singing softly in the darkness. Hello? Jake called out. Is anyone there? This is Jake Morrison from the Human Research Station. The singing stopped immediately. Then they heard footsteps, light and quick, coming toward them. A figure appeared in the cave entrance, silhouetted against the dim light from inside. It was Zara, but she looked different from the day before. Her translucent blue skin had developed gray patches, and her movements seemed slower and more careful. Her eyes, however, still flashed that impossible red color when she saw Jake. "You came," she whispered in English, her voice filled with relief and hope. "I was afraid you would not believe." "Zara, what is this place? Why are you here instead of with Elder Vex and the others?" She gestured for them to follow her into the cave. "Come, see truth. Then you understand why we need human help." Jake and Nathan exchanged glances, then followed Zara into the darkness. The cave entrance was just the beginning of a vast underground tunnel system. As they walked deeper, the walls began to glow with a soft blue light, apparently from some kind of natural luminescent minerals. The tunnels opened into enormous caverns, and what Jake saw there took his breath away. Thousands of Catherians lived in the underground chambers, but these were not the healthy, elegant beings from the surface. These Catherians were sick. Their translucent skin was mottled with gray and dark patches. Many moved slowly, as if walking, caused them pain. Some sat or lay on simple stone beds, too weak to stand. Children played quietly in small groups, but even they showed signs of the same mysterious illness. "My God," Nathan whispered. "There must be thousands of them down here." Zara led them through the main cavern, where simple dwellings had been, carved into the rock walls. The technology here was primitive compared to what they had seen on the surface. Instead of the advanced crystal technology, these Catherians used basic tools and simple lighting. "This is my people," Zara explained, her English halting but clear. "We are the forgotten ones, the sick ones, the surface people they say we do not exist." An elderly Catherian approached them, moving slowly but with dignity. His skin was almost completely gray, but his eyes were kind. He spoke to Zara in their musical language, and she translated. He says, "Welcome to the deep home." He asks if you are the human who might save us. Jake felt overwhelmed by the scope of what he was seeing. "Zara, how many of your people live down here?" "Many thousands in this place. More thousands in other deep homes across the world. We are the majority of Catherian people, but surface dwellers pretend we do not exist." Dr. Brooks had pulled out his medical scanner and was taking readings from the air and the Catherians around them. "Jake, I'm detecting some kind of genetic anomaly. These people are suffering from what looks like a hereditary disease that affects their cellular structure. Can you help them?" Zara asked, her eyes now showing purple sadness mixed with golden hope. Nathan looked at his readings more carefully. "I need more time to understand what's happening to them, but this looks like something that might respond to human genetic therapy techniques. We've developed treatments for similar hereditary conditions in our own species." Zara's eyes brightened to pure gold for the first time since they had met. "Then you will help us?" Jake looked around at the thousands of sick Catherians, then at Zara's hopeful face. "We'll try. But first I need to understand why the surface Catherians have hidden you from us. Why don't they want humans to know you exist?" Zara's expression darkened and her eyes flashed back to red. "Because they are the ones who made us sick, and they fear what humans might do if you learn the truth about what they did to us." The revelation hit Jake like a physical blow. The peaceful advanced Catherians that humanity had been so eager to befriend were not what they seemed. They had somehow caused this underground population to become sick, and they were hiding it from human knowledge. "Zara, we need to know everything. The whole truth about what happened and why your people are suffering." She nodded sadly. "Yes. But first, you must promise that you will not abandon us when you learn how terrible the truth really is." Jake looked at Dr. Brooks, who nodded grimly. They had come this far and there was no turning back now. "We promise," Jake said. "Tell us everything." Zara led Jake and Dr. Brooks deeper into the underground city to a chamber filled with ancient stone carvings. The walls told a story in pictures and symbols, showing the history of the Catherian people. What they learned there changed everything. They thought they knew about this seemingly peaceful species. Long ago, all Catherians lived together on the surface, Zara began, her voice echoing in the stone chamber. But we were not always one people. There were many different bloodlines, many different ways of living. The carvings showed various groups of Catherians with different skin patterns and eye colors. Some appeared to be warriors. Others seemed to be scholars or artists. Dr. Brooks scanned the images with his equipment while Jake tried to understand the timeline. "What happened to bring you all together?" Jake asked. Zara's eyes flashed sad, purple. War. A terrible war that lasted for generations. The different bloodlines fought over territory, over resources, over which way of life was the best. The stone pictures became darker and more violent. They showed battles between Catherian armies, cities burning and masses of people fleeing from destruction. But the most disturbing images came next. One bloodline, the ones who call themselves the pure blood now, they created a weapon. Zara continued. Not a weapon of metal or energy, but a weapon of life itself. A poison that attacked the very essence of what makes a Catherian alive. Dr. Brooks looked up from his scanner with alarm. "Are you talking about a biological weapon? Something that attacks genetic material?" "Yes," Zara confirmed. "They made it to target specific bloodlines to make their enemies weak and sick. But like all weapons of life, it grew beyond their control." The wall carvings showed the aftermath of the bioweapons deployment. Vast numbers of Catherians began showing the same gray patches and weakness that Jake had observed in the underground population. But instead of affecting only enemy bloodlines, the weapon had evolved to attack almost all Catherians. The pure blood realized their mistake too late, Zara explained. The weapon they created began to affect everyone except their own small group. But instead of trying to fix their mistake, they chose to hide it. Jake felt sick as he understood the implications. They drove the affected populations underground and pretended they didn't exist. "Worse than that," Zara said, her eyes now flashing red with anger. "They told the sick ones that they were being sent away for everyone's protection. They promised to find a cure and bring them back to the surface. That was 300 years ago." The final set of carvings showed the establishment of the underground cities. Thousands of sick Catherians had been forced to live in caves and tunnels, while the pure blood took control of all surface territory and technology. "For 3 centuries we have been dying slowly while they live in luxury above," Zara continued. "Each generation fewer children are born. Each generation the sickness gets worse. We try to find a cure with our simple tools, but we do not have the knowledge or equipment we need." Dr. Brooks was taking extensive readings from the stone carvings. "Jake, this bioweapon, it's still active in their genetic material. It's not just a disease that was passed down, it's an ongoing genetic attack that's getting worse over time." "Why didn't you tell the humans about this when we first arrived?" Jake asked. Zara looked confused. "Tell humans? But humans only speak to the pure blood. The pure blood are the government, the leaders, the ones with the big ships and the crystal technology. We are just sick people hiding in caves." Jake realized the horrible truth. When humanity had made first contact with Kithra Prime, they had naturally reached out to the most advanced civilization they could detect. The pure blood had sophisticated technology, beautiful cities, and impressive spacecraft. The underground populations had none of these things. "The pure blood have been using humans," Jake said slowly. "They've been showing us their perfect society, while hiding the fact that most of their species is dying." "But why?" Nathan asked. "What do they gain from deceiving us?" Before Zara could answer, they heard sounds from the tunnel entrance. Someone was coming and they were moving fast. Zara's eyes widened with fear. "Hide," she whispered urgently. "If pure blood find you here, they will kill all of us." But it was too late. A group of surface Catherians appeared in the chamber entrance, led by Elder Vex himself. His usually calm blue eyes were now blazing orange with anger and fear. Behind him came 4 other pure blood, all carrying weapons that glowed with crystal energy. "Step away from the humans, contaminated one," Elder Vex commanded Zara in perfect English. "You have violated the ancient agreements by bringing surface dwellers to this place." They have the right to know the truth, Zara replied, standing protectively in front of Jake and Nathan. The truth? Elder Vex laughed, but there was no humor in it. The truth is that you and your kind are the dying remnants of an inferior bloodline. We have protected humanity from knowledge of your existence because seeing you would only cause them sadness and confusion. Jake stepped forward, his anger overriding his fear. Protected us? You've been lying to us from the day we arrived. You've been using our friendship while millions of your own people suffer in caves. Elder Vex's eyes shifted to a color Jake had never seen before, a cold pale silver. You understand nothing, human. Your species is young and emotional. If you knew about the contaminated ones, you would either try to help them and make everything worse, or you would flee our world in disgust. Either choice would ruin our plans. What plans? Dr. Brooks demanded. Humanity has something we need, Elder Vex said, his voice becoming colder. Your genetic material is remarkably stable and adaptable. We have been studying you since you arrived, learning how your biological systems work. We believe human genetics might hold the key to finally purifying our bloodline completely. The horrible truth hit Jake like a punch to the stomach. You want to use human DNA to strengthen your pure bloodline while letting everyone else die. The contaminated ones are already dying, Elder Vex replied without emotion. Nothing can save them. But humanity might help us ensure that our superior bloodline survives and thrives. Zara stepped forward, her eyes blazing red. That is not true. Human medicine could help all of us, not just the pure blood, but you want to keep it for yourselves. Silence. Elder Vex raised his crystal weapon. You have already violated too many laws by bringing these humans here. Suddenly, the chamber filled with the sound of footsteps and voices. Hundreds of underground Catherians were gathering in the tunnels around them. Word had spread that humans were in the deep city, and the entire population was coming to see for themselves. Elder Vex realized he was vastly outnumbered. Even with superior weapons, 5 pure blood could not fight thousands of desperate people. His expression shifted from anger to calculation. Humans, he said, his voice becoming diplomatic again. You have seen something that was meant to remain hidden. But you must understand that this situation is very complicated. Perhaps we can discuss this back on your space station, where we can think clearly. We're not going anywhere, Jake said firmly. Not until we understand the full scope of what's happening here. Dr. Brooks was still scanning everything around, then with his medical equipment. Jake, I'm detecting something else. The bioweapon isn't just affecting the underground population. I'm seeing early signs of genetic instability in Elder Vex and the other pureblood too. Elder Vex's silver eyes flickered with fear for just a moment. That is impossible. We are protected by our superior genetics. No, Nathan said, checking his readings again. The weapon is attacking all Catherian genetic material. It's just working slower on your bloodline. But according to these scans, your population will start showing symptoms within the next 50 years. The revelation stunned everyone in the chamber. The underground Catherians began speaking excitedly among themselves in their musical language. Elder Vex and his pure blood looked shocked and frightened. That cannot be true, Elder Vex said, but his voice had lost its confidence. It is true, Zara said, her eyes now showing golden satisfaction. That is why we need human help. Not just for us, but for all Catherians. The poison your ancestors created will kill everyone eventually. Jake looked around at the faces surrounding them, underground Catherians filled with hope, pure blood filled with denial and fear, and Dr. Brooks filled with scientific determination to solve the problem. Elder Vex, Jake said formally, humanity came to your world in friendship. We wanted to learn from you and share knowledge with you. But this deception ends now. If you want our help, you need to be honest with us about everything. Elder Vex was silent for a long moment, clearly struggling with centuries of ingrained beliefs and policies. Finally, he spoke. The contaminated ones cannot be saved. Our scientists have tried for generations. Maybe your scientists couldn't save them, Dr. Brooks interrupted. But human medical technology is different from yours. We've solved genetic diseases that our ancestors thought were impossible to cure. And if you refuse to let us try to help everyone, Jake added, then humanity will have no choice but to end our relationship with Kethra Prime. We don't make friends with people who commit genocide. The chamber fell silent except for the soft whispers of the underground. The underground chamber shook as pure-blood military ships positioned themselves above the cave system. Elder Vex stood with his crystal weapon trained on Jake and Dr. Brooks, while hundreds of underground Catherians pressed closer from all sides. The situation was about to explode into violence. Elder Vex, Jake said carefully, what exactly do you think you're going to accomplish here? Simple, the pure-blood leader replied. You and Dr. Brooks will return to your space station and report that you found nothing of interest on the planet's surface. You will continue our diplomatic relationship as planned, and you will help us with our genetic research project. And if we refuse? Elder Vex's pale silver eyes grew colder. Then I will activate the orbital defense systems that you humans do not know exist. Your research station will be destroyed, and the hundreds of people aboard it will die. The contaminated ones here will also be eliminated to prevent any further security breaches. Dr. Brooks stepped forward, his medical scanner still active. You're bluffing. You need humanity's help too much to destroy us. Am I? Elder Vex touched a device on his wrist, and a holographic display appeared in the air. It showed the human research station in orbit, surrounded by what looked like empty space. But as the image adjusted, massive crystal structures became visible, hidden by some kind of cloaking technology. Our ancestors built these defense platforms centuries ago, Elder Vex explained. They have been watching your station since the day you arrived. One command from me and they will reduce your ship to cosmic dust. Jake felt his heart sink as he realized the scope of the pure-blood deception. Not only had they hidden the genocide of their own people, but they had also been secretly monitoring humanity with hidden weapons. How long have you been planning this? Jake asked. Since we first detected your species approaching our system, Elder Vex replied. We knew that contact with humans would eventually happen, so we prepared. We studied your broadcasts, learned your languages, and created the perfect society to make you want to be our friends. Zara spoke up, her voice filled with anger. Everything you showed the humans was fake? Not fake, Elder Vex corrected. Simply incomplete. We showed them our best qualities while hiding our problems. That is what any intelligent species would do when making first contact. Dr. Brooks was studying his medical scanner readings with growing alarm. Jake, I'm detecting some kind of energy buildup in the orbital platforms. I think he's serious about the threat. The underground Catherians began speaking among themselves in urgent whispers. Many of them looked afraid, but others seemed angry. Zara translated some of their words. My people say they would rather die than continue living as prisoners while the pure blood use humans to make themselves stronger, she said. That choice may not be yours to make, Elder Vex replied coldly. You are contaminated beings whose existence threatens the future of our species. If you force me to choose between preserving the pure bloodline and protecting your worthless lives, the choice is simple. Jake's mind raced as he tried to find a solution. Hundreds of humans in orbit, thousands of underground Catherians around, him, and millions more sick aliens hidden across the planet. Elder Vex held all their lives in his hands. What exactly do you want from humanity? Jake asked. Your genetic material, your medical knowledge, and your biotechnology, Elder Vex explained. In exchange, we will share some of our crystal technology and energy systems. It will be a fair trade between superior species. But you'll only use it to help the pure blood? Of course, they are the only Catherians worth saving. Dr. Brooks looked up from his scanner with a strange expression. Elder Vex, I need to tell you something important about those medical scans I've been taking. What about them? The genetic weapon your ancestors created. It's not just affecting the underground populations. I can see the early stages of genetic breakdown in you and your companions right now. Elder Vex's confident expression wavered. That is impossible. Our bloodline is pure and protected. No bloodline is completely pure, Nathan explained. The weapon creates a cascading genetic failure that spreads slowly through populations. Your people might have better resistance, but you're not immune. According to my readings, the pure blood population will start showing serious symptoms within 20 to 30 years. The other pure blood in the chamber began speaking rapidly among themselves in their musical language. Their eyes were flashing colors of fear and confusion. Even if that were true, Elder Vex said, though his voice lacked its earlier confidence, it only proves that we need human genetic material even more urgently. Or, Jake suggested, it proves that you need to work with the underground populations to find a cure that saves everyone. Work with contaminated beings? Impossible. Zara stepped forward, her eyes blazing red with anger. We are not contaminated. We are your people. Your weapon made us sick, and your guilt makes you hate us. You are the past, Elder Vex replied, harshly. We are the future. Suddenly, Commander Turner's voice crackled through Jake's communication device. Morrison, what's your status? We're detecting unusual energy readings from your location. Elder Vex smiled coldly. Answer him. Tell him everything is normal. Jake looked at the device, then at the hundreds of desperate faces around him. If, he lied, the underground Catherians would remain hidden and doomed. If he told the truth, Elder Vex might destroy the research station. Jake Morrison here, he said into the device. Commander, we've discovered something incredible down here. There are thousands of Catherians living underground, and they're dying from a genetic weapon that was used centuries ago. Elder Vex's eyes blazed with fury. You fool. You have doomed everyone. Turner's voice came back immediately. Morrison, are you under duress? Your signal is being monitored by unknown sources. Yes, we're in danger, Jake continued. The surface Catherians have been lying to us. They have hidden orbital weapons pointed at our station. Elder Vex raised his crystal weapon toward Jake, but before he could fire, Zara threw herself between them. The energy blast hit her instead, and she crumpled to the ground with a cry of pain. The underground Catherians roared with anger and surged forward. Elder Vex and his companions found themselves surrounded by hundreds of desperate people who had nothing left to lose. Stop, Elder Vex shouted. If you attack us, I will destroy the human station. But Dr. Brooks was kneeling beside Zara, checking her injuries. She's badly hurt, but she'll live, he announced. Then he looked up at Elder Vex with determination. I've been analyzing the genetic weapon while we've been talking. I think I know how to neutralize it. What? Elder Vex and Jake said simultaneously. The weapon attacks genetic sequences, but it has a weakness, Nathan explained. It can't adapt to completely foreign genetic material. Human DNA is so different from Catherian genetics that it might serve as a kind of genetic anchor, stopping the weapon's cascade effect. Zara, despite her injuries, managed to speak. You mean humans can save us? Maybe, Dr. Brooks said. But it would require a volunteer to undergo an experimental procedure. We would need to temporarily integrate human and Catherian genetic material to create a universal treatment. Elder Vex laughed bitterly. Human genetic material? That proves my point. Humans are useful to us. Not the way you think, Nathan continued. The procedure would be dangerous for the human volunteer. They would need to allow their own genetics to be permanently altered. They might not survive, and if they do, they would no longer be completely human. Jake felt a strange calm settle over him as he understood what needed to be done. I'll do it. Jake? No, Nathan protested. We don't know if it will work, and the risks are enormous. If it works, it could save both the underground Catherians and the pureblood, Jake said. If it doesn't work, at least we tried. Elder Vex was staring at Jake with a mixture of confusion and fear. You would risk your life for contaminated beings you just met? I would risk my life to prevent genocide, Jake replied firmly. That's what humans do. We don't abandon people just because they're different or sick. Commander Turner's voice came through the communication device again. Morrison, we're preparing emergency evacuation procedures. Can you get to your shuttle? Jake looked around at the hundreds of underground Catherians, then at Elder Vex and his weapons, then at Zara lying injured on the stone floor. Negative, Commander. We're staying here, but I need you to contact Captain Ford immediately. Tell her that we're going to attempt an experimental medical procedure that might save this entire species. Jake, you're talking about risking your life, Turner's voice said urgently. I'm talking about saving millions of lives, Jake replied. Sometimes, that's worth the risk. Elder Vex was still holding his weapon, but his expression had changed from anger to confusion. I do not understand you humans. Why would you sacrifice yourself for people who are not your species? Jake looked at the pure blood leader with something approaching pity. Because that's what intelligent beings do for each other. We help, we sacrifice, we refuse to let others suffer when we have the power to prevent it. Even if it costs you everything, especially then. In the distance, they could hear the sounds of more ships arriving. The situation was escalating rapidly and soon Jake would have to follow. Elder Vex stood motionless for what felt like an eternity. His crystal weapon pointed at Jake while hundreds of underground Catherians watched in tense silence. The pale silver of his eyes flickered between determination and uncertainty. You truly believe this genetic procedure could save all Catherians? He asked finally. Dr. Brooks nodded grimly. The theory is sound, but it's never been tested. We would be attempting something that no human or Catherian has ever tried before. And the human volunteer would certainly be changed forever? Most likely, Nathan admitted. The integration of human and Catherian genetics would be permanent. Jake would become something new, something that's never existed before. Jake helped Zara sit up against the stone wall, her translucent skin still showing the dark burn mark from Elder Vex's weapon. Despite her injury, her eyes were focused intently on the conversation. Please, she whispered to Elder Vex. Let them try. What do any of us have to lose now? The pure blood leader's weapon slowly lowered. Very well, but I have conditions. If this procedure fails and the human dies, the remaining humans will agree to our original partnership terms, and if it succeeds, the underground populations will remain separate from pure blood society. No, Jake said firmly. If this works, it works for everyone. No more separation, no more hiding, no more lies. Your people reunite and work together to rebuild your civilization. The contaminated ones are inferior, Elder Vex protested. The contaminated ones are the majority of your species, Jake replied. And they're not inferior. They're sick. There's a difference. Commander Turner's voice crackled through the communication device again. Morrison, we have multiple ships converging on your location. Captain Ford is demanding an immediate evacuation. Jake keyed his communicator. Tell the captain that we're attempting a medical procedure that could save millions of lives. We need Dr. Brooks's full surgical kit brought down from the shuttle, and we need Maya Chen to establish communication with both surface and underground Catherian populations. Jake, the orbital platforms are still active, Turner warned. Elder Vex could destroy the station at any moment. Elder Vex heard this and touched his wrist device. I am powering down the orbital defenses, he announced. But they will reactivate automatically if I am killed or if my vital signs stop. Within an hour, the underground chamber had been transformed into an improvised medical facility. Dr. Brooks had retrieved his equipment from the shuttle, while Maya Chen worked with Zara to establish communication networks throughout the underground city and with the surface. Captain Ford's voice came through the main communicator, tense with worry. Morrison, I'm ordering you to abort this procedure and return to the station immediately. Respectfully, Captain, I can't do that, Jake replied. This might be our only chance to prevent a genocide and save an entire species. It's too dangerous. We don't know enough about the risks. Dr. Brooks looked up from his preparations. Captain, I've analyzed the genetic weapon extensively. If we don't attempt this procedure, the entire Catherian species will be extinct within 200 years. Both the underground populations and the pure blood are infected. The pure blood just don't realize it yet. Elder Vex had been listening to this exchange with growing alarm. You are certain that our bloodline is also doomed? Completely certain, Nathan confirmed. The weapon creates a genetic cascade failure. Your people have better resistance, but you're not immune. You just have more time before the symptoms become obvious. The pure blood leader sat down heavily on a stone ledge. the weight of centuries of denial finally hitting him. All this time, we thought we were protecting the future of our species, but we were actually watching it die while we maintained our pride. Zara, despite her injuries, had been helping Maya establish communications with underground settlements across the planet. "Jake," she said, "my people want you to know that whatever happens, you will be remembered as the human who tried to save us." "I'm not planning to be remembered," Jake replied. "I'm planning to succeed." The procedure itself was unlike anything that had ever been attempted. Dr. Brooks had to use a combination of human medical technology and Catherian biocrystal equipment to create a genetic integration chamber. The goal was to temporarily merge Jake's human DNA with Catherian genetic material, creating a hybrid template that could resist the ancient weapon. "The hardest part," Nathan explained as he worked, "is that we need genetic material from both pureblood and underground Catherians to create a universal cure. The weapon affects them differently, so the treatment needs to address both variants." Elder Vex stepped forward. "I will provide pure blood genetic material." "And I will provide material from my people," Zara added. Jake lay down in the improvised medical chamber, surrounded by glowing crystals and human technology. The combination looked strange and alien, but Dr. Brooks assured him that it would work. "Jake, once we start this process, there's no going back," Nathan warned. "Your human biology will be permanently altered. You might not even think the same, way afterward." "Will I still be me?" "I honestly don't know. This is completely uncharted territory." Jake thought about everything that had led to this moment. Zara's desperate plea, the discovery of the underground cities, the revelation of the pureblood deception, and the threat of species extinction. "Start the procedure," he said. The integration process was unlike anything Jake had ever experienced. He felt his consciousness expanding as alien genetic patterns merged with his human DNA. Colors became more vivid, sounds became musical, and he could sense the emotional states of everyone around him through subtle changes in their bioelectric fields. Hours passed in a strange, dream-like state. Jake was aware of Dr. Brooks monitoring his vital signs, of Maya translating urgent updates to Catherian populations around the world, and of Elder Vex pacing nervously while Zara watched with golden hope in her eyes. When Jake finally opened his eyes, everything had changed. His vision was sharper. He could see into light spectrums that humans normally couldn't detect, and he could understand the Catherian language without translation. "How do you feel?" Dr. Brooks asked, scanning him with medical equipment. "Different," Jake replied, and his voice carried new harmonics that hadn't been there before. "But still me. Did it work?" Nathan checked his readings with excitement. "Jake, your genetic structure is stable, and you're producing antibodies that specifically target the ancient weapon. But more importantly, your blood contains the template for a treatment that should work on all Catherians." Elder Vex approached cautiously. "You can understand our language now?" "Yes," Jake replied in perfect Catherian, startling everyone in the chamber. "And I can sense your emotions. You're afraid, but also hopeful. Can you synthesize the cure?" Zara asked urgently. Dr. Brooks was already working on that problem. Using Jake's transformed blood as a base, he began creating doses of the treatment using the biocrystal equipment. It will take time to produce enough for everyone, but the process is working. The first test came an hour later. An elderly underground Catherian volunteered to receive the experimental treatment. Within minutes of the injection, the gray patches on his skin began to fade and his eyes brightened from dull purple to vibrant blue. Word spread through the underground city like wildfire. The cure worked. Over the following days, a massive medical effort began. Underground Catherians worked with pureblood scientists to mass-produce the treatment, using the genetic template from Jake's transformed biology. Maya Chen coordinated, with surface governments to establish treatment centers. Elder Vex publicly admitted to the deception and formally apologized to both humanity and the underground populations. "We let fear and pride blind us to the truth," he announced to both species. The humans have shown us what it means to sacrifice for others, even for people who are not your own kind. Jake's transformation became permanent, but he adapted to his new existence. His extended lifespan meant he could serve as a bridge between human and Cytherian civilizations for centuries to come. His unique biology allowed him to understand both species in ways that no one else could. Zara, now healthy and strong, became the first elected leader of the reunified Cytherian government. Her first official act was to establish the Morrison Institute for Interspecies Medicine, named after Jake's sacrifice. Captain Ford, initially angry about Jake's violation of orders, eventually recommended him for humanity's highest civilian honor. "Sometimes," she wrote in her report, "the greatest service to humanity comes from those willing to stop being human." Dr. Brooks published extensive research on the genetic integration process, establishing the foundation for a new field of medicine. His work attracted scientists from across human space, eager to understand how one man's sacrifice had saved an entire species. The relationship between humanity and the Cytherians became the model for peaceful first contact throughout the galaxy. Other species learned that humans were willing to risk everything to prevent suffering, even among people they had just met. Years later, Jake stood in the observation deck of the new joint human-Cytherian research station, watching ships from both species working together in the space around Cythera Prime. His reflection in the window showed features that were no longer completely human. His eyes could